Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to announce on this week's Friday Fireside, we have a special guest of Dan Sweeney from Dan Sweeney's One Hit Wonders. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Rick. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So Dan and I worked together at a lot of places. We were sort of reminiscing that we had been bouncing around at Showtime, and he was at Prevue Networks, and then at TVguide, and I was at TVguide, and back and forth and back and forth. Dan, why in the world did you start Dan Sweeney's, and I have to make sure I say the entire name. How did you start Dan Sweeney's One Hit Wonders? How did that come about?
So forget the resume, right? But I did radio in high school and college and was lucky enough, or stupid luck, to fall into cable TV back in 1980. I actually started in cable the day CNN started, June 1st, 1980.
There you go.
And right out of college. And of course, as you remember, Rick, cable was the internet in the 80s. So work hard, have a great time, and watch everything grow. So at that time, I was actually going to go into radio and television, had something set up with a radio station in Cincinnati at the time, and instead ended up working at Continental Cablevision in Chicago doing franchising as everything was moving forward and exploding into the industry. So that led to Showtime and another cable company, Cook Cablevision, owned by Jack Kent Cook, who is long gone, but owned the Washington Redskins, and he was a cable pioneer himself, and a tough guy to work for, but worked for him, and then moseyed from LA over to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and worked for a little company there, United Video, in the division of Prevue Networks, and it was that little scrolly guide with the video on top that you couldn't control.
The scrolly blue thing. That's
right. It was the solution to what was on an amazing 30 to 50 channels of television. So it was quite effective. That and print guides, as you well know, that's where you and I ran into each other again. And of course that morphed and did quite well. And we got into the development of interactive program guides, which are now commonplace, but back then it was a big deal, and there were patent wars going on with all that stuff. And that morphed into TVguide and was owned by Rupert Murdoch News Corp and John Malone with his then TCI. So we're this aw shucks little Tulsa company, and we were playing in the big leagues. So we watched the development of that. In 2001, I was lucky enough to move out to Carlsbad, California. It's North San Diego County. That's where I live now. And I've been here for the past almost 20 years. I worked for Buzztime, which was a multiplayer game that was in bars and restaurants for years.
Was Michael Fleming there?
Michael Fleming did end up there, yes.
Yes, okay. And even Burns was there for a while, wasn't he?
He was not, but Fleming was there. So we did that, and of course, I just my job was to bang on doors and cable companies and get them to add this Buzztime multiplayer live action game. They were trivia games through the set-top box because of an investment through Scientific Atlanta at the time. Well, we made that happen as best we could with the limitations of Motorola boxes at the time, or General Instrument and Scientific Atlanta boxes, but we did make it work. We did have some success, and of course, the internet just stomped all over us and eventually surpassed us, and it was the right way to go. So since then, worked for some technology companies your audience may not know about. One significant one, though, was Solekai Systems, an engineering services company in San Diego. We did quite well, and had a great run there for a number of years, 8 years. Something highlight from there was Ultraviolet, which was the studio consortium for purchasing and storing movies.
Right.
Consumer had the ability to do that for the first time. So we saw the rise and fall of that. We did a lot of the development for that, and of course that went by the wayside. And Disney does a lot of that movie purchase and storage for consumers now. So anyway, long story short, fast forward to 2017. Had some personal things that happened in my life. Some people passed away that were quite close to me. A number of them in a short period of time, and of course it makes one pause and say, where am I headed here? So was doing quite well and having a ball in the business, and but decided, you know what, to do stuff that I have the opportunity to do now, and I didn't before. So that meant dropping the mic from a full-time career, going part-time eventually with the strategic labs that I have on the side with a partner in Chicago who owned his own OTT channel called Vibrant TV for a number of years. His name is Dan Zifkin. And we've taken on a small handful of clients basically to help them with business planning and teach them what not to do in that space so they can save a lot of money.
Yep. So
it's basically learn from the mistakes and technology content and how to direct this thing, because there's a lot of channels out there. You know, it's a crowded space. So that's been a lot of fun doing that. That's really what keeps me going in the industry. But I was able to dedicate some time into this project of one-hit wonders. You ready?
I'm ready.
So what happened was in 2017, I got my hands, I actually studied and looked at one-hit wonders. I said, I'd like to get back into radio. So I studied a couple of different niches. One-hit wonders was something I was looking at, Googling it to death to see if, is anybody out there doing this? Is anybody actually telling the backstories of over 2,300 one-hit wonders from 1955 to 2015?
Wow.
So this is the Billboard list of combination of artist and song that makes it into the Billboard Top 40 once and never repeats the achievement again. We'll have a little fun with that towards the end of our conversation here. So I went to a local station, a local 500-watt AM station in Oceanside, California, pitched a couple ideas, one of which was the one-hit wonders concept. Said, I like that, let's go for it. So we did it. So fast forward to 2019, I basically and methodically built these programs, broadcast them, recorded them. So I went through 60 years of one-hit wonders and built the backstories for 2,300 one-hit wonders, including a number of interviews that I either spoke to or I reached out and searched for these interviews and integrated them into the shows. Bought jingles from Jam Productions in Dallas. They do the jingles for WABC in New York, WLS in Chicago, KABC on the West Coast, and they've been around since the 70s. Very crisp, clean, good sound. So I one-hit wonder jingles, do the interviews, I put in trivia, news, that kind of stuff to give a flavor for what those years were like. And started building all that content, and also added other shows of This Week in One Hit Wonders. So for example, it's This Week in August, One Hit Wonders, and that's playing everywhere. So between the two, I've built about 350 hours of content.
Oh.
So so you got something there. So I built these into 55-minute shows, started syndicating them in May of last year. And now I'm up to almost about 60 stations in the United States, Canada, the UK, Germany, and New Zealand, of all places.
Wow.
And the response has been good. So, you know, part of the tie-in back to your audience here, of course, I think your audience is interested in content and technology.
Yeah.
The makeup, I thought it would be helpful to tell them, okay, well, first I better preface this. It's a real labor of love, because we'll talk about the economics of this. And, your audience might know where the industry has been headed with broadcasting. It's headed to a very centralized state, the industry is, and they're basically scaling way back on local markets, which is ironic because radio is local market, right?
Yep.
That's their advantage. And so radio is trying to figure itself out. They've been in a state of mergers and acquisitions since deregulation in the late 90s, and it's showing. So there are other options out there for consumers to go to Spotify and Mixcloud and all that stuff as well. But nobody was doing a show like this, actually telling the stories. Where are they now? Updates. You know, what else have they done? Any interesting facts and figures from them? Right. There's a lot of stuff out there, and it's always interesting because listeners will glean 2 or 3 nuggets for sure in every show that they'll walk away saying, "Huh, I didn't know that."
Right.
So it's really a lot of fun. So we have all these stations, and the makeup is about, I'd say, out of these stations is about 55% are online stations, and 45% are over-the-air AM/FMs throughout the markets here. So that's basically how the show is distributed now. And that's, and I could talk, where do you want to go with this? So that's, I think, the big overview of
Okay.
what the show is.
One question I'm curious about. I spent a short amount of time working around the music rights business and sniffed around the corners of ASCAP and BMI. How do you have the rights to broadcast these songs?
Good question. That's easy. So because I distribute these to radio stations and online stations, the burden is on them to carry the music rights. I'm clean. So even at my website, you'll see there's an on-demand button. Well, I have a station, WON in New York, which is an online station. They mimic WON, and they actually put my past episodes on Mixcloud. So it just links off to that, which is really their website, but you can access those and listen to them whenever you want.
Sweet. Okay. So now,
my hands are clean.
does this week's episode, for example, do you have the same episode running everywhere, or do stations pick and choose what they want to run?
Another good question. So every Monday I distribute the shows, and I do this for two reasons, because I also send out social media.
Right.
Because social media is a key component. You know, everybody's pretty frugal on this stuff, whether you're over the air or even online. There's a lot of these guys don't have huge budgets. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the way to drive consumers or tune in for these things in addition to their local markets and doing remotes and stuff. So I send out one show a week that's in the category of 1955 to 1985. So it's 55 to 57 minutes. So it allows for commercial breaks, top of the hour IDs, that kind of stuff. And this week, for example, is 1965 that I sent out to everybody. Another one is between the years 1985 and 2015. In that category, I sent out a 57-minute show. It's 2008, 2009. So then I send out two other episodes that not all stations take, but a good 40 of them take, is This Week in One Hit Wonders. And it would be August One Hit Wonders in both categories, again, 55 to 85 and 85 to 2015. So I have a number of stations that carry all four, and they scatter them around through the week.
Got it.
Just to give you an idea of it.
And these 350 episodes, these are all in the can now, right?
These are all in the can. I'm still building new ones, like specialized ones. Celebrity One Hit Wonders ran last week in both categories. I have novelty One Hit Wonders, R&B One Hit Wonders, disco One Hit Wonders. So you can see, just like music in general, you can slice and dice these things into different music genres, different subject matters. I'm going to build one later for One Hit Wonder deep tracks, and basically just take a bunch of the interviews I aggregated over time and build those into something that, if people want a deeper look at these things, I'll build a one-off and say, here's an interview with Mungo Jerry in the summertime. Here's an interview with Spirit in the Sky, Norman Greenbaum. So I have those and some other ones as well. So those are some specialty shows that I'm continuing to build. There's a lot of them you can do. So it's basically, the franchise is One Hit Wonders. You slice and dice this thing, reinforce yourself so that you're an expert in this thing. It took a lot of time and energy, and I got to keep it up to date.
Yeah.
People ain't living forever. So, most of the artists from the 50s and 60s are going by the wayside now. The 70s, they're getting up there in the years. So 80s, 90s, they're starting to get a little pain in their back as well. So that's, you got to keep up with where are they now? What are they doing? And if they are gone, may they rest in peace. The one thing I was going to say on the shows that I distribute every week is I also distribute social media with album cover art, the backstories, so that station can actually post those on their link or on their websites or their social media, so they have fresh content every week. So I send out two artists, album covers and backgrounds and video links that stations can repost on their websites and social media. So consumers have a reason to tune in for fresh content every week. So it's not just my show's on, here's what's on the show this week. So, and that's been a big help to a lot of these guys who, like I said earlier, rely on social media for tune in and building their audience. Speaking of audiences, I've talked to, in preparation for this, I talked to 3 of the online stations. For example, Austin Douglas, who's in Indianapolis, he has Mix 105, Max 92, which is in Maryland. You know, he sets these stations up with technology so they can operate as a linear radio station. But of course, you got to tune in online. It's the only way they're available. Well, there's a proliferation of these. There's got to be, I've heard people say there's 50 to 100,000 of these out there in the world. And they get some pretty interesting audiences. So Austin has said that his numbers on the stations, he represents 5 and helps clients with these things, set them up and operate them for them. And he says that COVID-19, their listenership, their unique streams have gone up in all cases.
I believe
consumers, that. Yeah, consumers, and that's been true with the other guys I talked to. For example, Don Solekai, he runs a station called Super CFL, which mimics WCFL in Chicago, which was big in the 60s and 70s. So it's nostalgia, you know, it's that oldies and classic rock. He's had the same point is the listeners are up because of COVID. He promotes it on Twitter, Facebook, social media, and so on. He's built a nice audience, quite honestly. And the other guy I'd tell you about is WTYM, Time 102. And this guy has been doing this for a number of years. His numbers are up. He gets about 30,000 streams a month on his station. Those are unique streams. So out of that, I probably get 1,000 out of them. You know, 1,000 listens.
All right, so let me. First of all, your internal clock is set at 54 minutes. My internal clock is set at about 15. So we need to.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Do you want to know how I make money?
Some of my what?
Do you want to know how I make money?
Tell me how you make money.
Well, that's the question. I do say it's a labor of love, but there's opportunities with underwriting, with merchandising. The stations are generally, they don't pay you. So you got to work on barter arrangements and do that. So I make a few nickels and dimes doing that stuff. Other guys, there's a bunch of us out there that find different niches. There's some good product out there. And some other guys do remotes. Some have revenue sharing that they do with ads, whether they be the stream ads that are, you know, that are going in like the Geico or something. Those are pennies, right? But they also find other clients to do it as well. The holy grail for me, to go next to make any kind of money on this would be to get represented through national syndicators. And I'm at that point where I can do that. I'm just not ready to do it, because then you get heightened reformatting the shows into hour wheels that have breaks throughout the hour versus just one show that allows for 3 or 4 minutes at the top at the hour.
Right.
So you got to do that. You got to do a lot more promotion with the syndicator and a lot more interviews. So I'm almost ready to do that. So I'm talking to a couple of syndicators, and that's where you go to the broadcast groups and try and get distribution through their stations. And then you got to rework the shows so they're customized for those station groups. So it's some pretty complicated stuff. And but I got the shiny thing to point to what I'm doing right now with all these stations. So it's real product.
You do.
Yeah.
And again, you have a lot of your content already in the can. Editing, slicing, and dicing.
That's right.
Means you don't have to go back and do it again. We do have some broadcast groups who watch this. We also have the folks at Viacom CBS, some very senior folks who tune in every week to listen to this. I would think that at some point in time, there's a variation of what you could do on video for the folks at MTV, because at some point they do run, now and again, they do run music.
Absolutely, and you're going to have different groups like SiriusXM did a Wonderland. They did a limited run on just playing one-hit wonders. But again, the same problem was you got these outlets that do that. You go to Spotify, you can pull up one-hit wonders. They play the songs. That's nice, but what's the story?
They don't do the backstory, right?
Nobody's doing the stories. So that's where I found a unique niche to do this. And it's we're finding out more and more that stations, because they're going to more of a generic music format is they're losing personality with these stations. So, you know, if you want music, you can go somewhere and not even listen to the commercials. So there's been audience erosion for this, and stations are starting to pick up. In 4th of July, I did a live show, Philadelphia One Hit Wonders, that I think you accidentally tuned into.
I did.
And the phones were ringing off the hook. We had a great time.
That's because you began with the Furco string band from the Mummers Parade. I mean, that was a smart choice.
Well, I'm sure half the people listening to this won't even know what the heck we're talking about.
No, I know, but you know, anybody in Philadelphia.
But you're right. You're absolutely, because that one was from 1955, right?
There you go.
So, but it was a million record seller too, and there's the station even said is, you know, we're adding shows like yours because we're getting lost. Everybody's getting lost in the business, losing their identity. You can't just keep changing jingles. You need personality and some edutainment and that kind of stuff. So I'm glad to say I'm a regular part of the Philadelphia DMA every Saturday at 2 p.m. on a station there. So.
Well, listen, speaking of personalities, we do need to wrap up, but Dan, I will tell you, you are having a whole lot more fun than anybody ought to have.
I think I am. Can I leave you? How much time? What do we got? About 1 minute?
Give me. Yeah, we'll give you a radio minute.
Okay, 1 radio minute. Okay, Rick, the first music video on MTV launched August 1st, 1981. It was a one-hit wonder back in 1979. In fact, the last one-hit wonder of the 70s. Can you tell me what it was?
Video Killed the Radio Star.
What was the group?
I have no idea.
It's the Buggles. And it came in at number 40. It squeaked into the top 40 back in 79. One other one your audience might like here or to hear about is there was a song in 1982. Okay. Thomas Dolby did it. Now, Thomas Dolby made gazillions of dollars in Silicon Valley in the 90s because he built the ringtone that was used by Nokia when it was the largest cell phone distributor in the world.
Wow.
And he got a royalty on every single phone. It was some obscure 1800s classical song that he turned into a ringtone. Can you tell me what the song was and when it was?
I have no idea.
She Blinded Me with Science, 1982.
Thankfully, I've never heard of that. And I won't ask you to sing it.
You'd know it if you heard it. You'd know it if you heard it. I promise you. And the first rap song ever was that made it into the top 40. It's back in 1980. It's the Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight, number 39 in January of 1980. And the rest we owe them. Rapper's Delight. So you can either hate them or love them, but they're the guys responsible for introducing hip hop and rap and all that stuff that dominated in the late 90s and early 2000s. Dominated. So to the point where I would turn the radio off. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So okay. So that's it for that.
All right.
So if you want more information, Rick, about
guess what? I'm going to point people to your website and let them tune in, and we'll do everybody a favor, and we will not sing in unison. Video Killed the Radio Star. But Dan Sweeney from Dan Sweeney's One Hit Wonders. Thank you very, very much, and this will air on Friday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.